Hi everybody, welcome to the last part of the semester. I have a lot of material to take you through, and it's all right here in this last video and other media assignments module. Click on it and open it, just like you've been doing all semester. Well, half the semester. You're watching this introduction to the materials for test 4. Start here. You're going to notice that this is laid out differently from the last one I did. It has a lot more detail. I did that for a couple of reasons. One, I'm getting better at this. And two, this is way more complicated. This last section of the course is very complex. And so I wanted to take you through all of this and give you a little more detailed notes to help you sort of organize your thoughts. Here's the problem. As we move forward in the history of music, more and more artists are crossing, genre lines, and they're mixing stuff up, and literally every piece, it's like they're reinventing themselves. I'll show you a lot of that as we go down through here. Here's the other important thing to remember. Don't panic. As you look down through this document, you're going to see way more stuff. Don't let it freak you out. I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to show you how to handle it. It's going to be okay, I promise. So, you're watching this, and the next thing I tell you to do is read the rest of the book. Start on page 933 where we stopped at the end of test 3 and read to the end. That's important because you're going to start seeing people like Elliott Carter, George Crumb, Stockhausen, lots of others who are crossing from section to section to section. They're mentioned multiple times, and they're doing wildly different things as they go through their careers. So you're going to have to deal with that. So read the whole thing first, then you'll have an overview. And then I've set this up to go basically by page numbers in the book. So I've chunked it up into sometimes 3 or 4 6-page areas to help you through stuff. So start taking it by little sub-chunks as you go through. That's where you need to go to the scores, study the scores in the music, read again, and watch all of this stuff one little section at a time. There's still going to be a ton of overlap, but this will really help you. I've started you off with the longest single piece I'm asking you to watch. It's an hour. It's absolutely worth it. This is Milton Babbitt. Now, Milton Babbitt in the book is actually not as important as John Cage as some others, but I've put him up front here for one very clear reason. He is the most, in some ways, unapologetic of the academics, if you will. And his music is some of the most complex and difficult for audiences to grasp. I want you to see this whole documentary because you'll see him playing jazz piano and having dinner with his family. You'll hear people like Stephen Sondheim and Stanley Jordan, mainstream people, talk about their work with Milton Babbitt. And you'll see that he's just this guy. He's this really nice, friendly guy who writes this dense, complex music. He's making a clear artistic choice. So watch this because what you're getting from him is a lot of what a lot of these folks did. Their music is challenging. But you've got to understand it comes from a point of their humanity. Babbitt got caught up in a big controversy because he was interviewed for High Fidelity magazine, and the article had a really kind of academic title, which the editor didn't like. So the editor, unbeknownst to Babbitt or the interviewer, changed it to Who Cares If You Listen, and it set off a huge firestorm of controversy. After you've watched this whole video, read this wiki document. Who Cares If You Listen? It'll tell you the story. It's mentioned in the video too. And then you're going to read the actual article. This is the actual article in the High Fidelity magazine. There's also a reaction. This is posted on a composer's website. You don't need to read this. If you're interested, help yourself, but I'm not requiring it for the class. And then truck on down. These are short. This total serial introduction, this is just a couple of minutes long. I love it, though, because the guy says, this is a really simple example of total serialism, and it's already in 4 bars crazy complex. Now, again, you're going to have to deal with the fact that a lot of these composers go way beyond one style period. I've put a nice article here of Pierre Boulez and his Urkam Institute. This is an NPR piece. Listen here. Read here, and if you want to explore more, there's some other cool links of his pieces, that sort of thing. You're going to find a lot of that in this section, where you can go 9 levels deep if you want to. I've marked pretty clearly what I'm requiring versus what you might want to explore. Karlheinz Stockhausen, this is a little 4 or 5 minute video that introduces him again. And I've made a note here for you. This video goes way beyond this little section in the book because he goes way beyond this little section in the book. Barriosequenza. A lot of times in this section of the class especially, you guys saw me do this before we went to the fully online model. I would play 2 or 3, 4 minutes of an hour-long piece, right? And sometimes I'd skip through it to give you a sense of it. I can't do that for you here. You have to be responsible for that. And you know better than anyone what you need to get a sense of the piece. So I'm leaving that up to you. This is a long piece. You don't need to listen to the whole thing. If you want to, of course, by all means. But, watch the beginning, get a sense of it, fast forward through as you need to. It'll really help. Sometimes I've put introductions to pieces. This is a good one. This is the Barrios Sinfonia. It's one of my favorite of his pieces. Read this. It'll explain the piece. It puts it into context. In particular, that he's doing collage music. Look at the samples this dude uses. There's quotations from all of these pieces woven into the piece I'm going to have you watch. But then, once you get into it, it's a long piece. Fast forward as you need to. You don't have to watch the whole piece, although it's wicked cool. Same thing with Elliott Carter. Just watch enough to get a sense of his complexity, this new virtuosity that we're going to talk about. I did post a couple of things that are in your scores, in particular this one. The Penderecki Threnody is a masterpiece. You've got it in your scores, but this is a moving score, and honestly, when you listen to it, it's easier to follow this one than the one in the books. I find it very helpful. I hope you do too. I've got some websites I've asked you to explore, just like the Charles Ives website we looked at back earlier in the semester. This John Cage one is massive. Take some time, poke around here, look at the different things. There's a cool prepared piano app. There's all kinds of things to play with. There's detail. There's biography of him. It is fantastic. Spend some time getting to know Cage. And then you've got some examples. Third Construction, as he moves forward to Indeterminacy. One of my favorite pieces is Concerto for Prepared Piano. And then watch all. In some places I've specifically said, watch all of this. Make sure you watch the whole thing. This is him talking about silence and how it impacts him. Same thing here. This is a little longer, but it's required. Harry Partch's Music Studio. This is a 1958 documentary where he takes you through what is... He's Harry Partch. There's nobody else like him. He built his own instruments. He created things out of thin air. This is a beautiful documentary tour of his studio and him playing those instruments, many of which were one-offs and disappeared after he died. But this guy and some others have started rebuilding it. This video here with Harry Partch, required. This video here, read it carefully. Watch below only if you're interested. If you're a percussionist, you should watch this. It'll blow your mind. But if it's too much for you, I understand. There's lots of material here. So you can skip over this one, and I've clearly marked where that's appropriate. Fluxus. This is a little 4-minute video. Nobody can explain Fluxus. You just got to watch it. But you need to see them perform. This is all discussion. This video actually has some performance, but you don't need to watch it all. Fast forward through it. Versus George Crumb. George Crumb, it's all here. George Crumb, this article is really cool. And again, 3 levels deep, man. This is a few years ago when he turned 90. Oh, actually last year. Beautiful article. Read it with care. But if you want to delve deeply into his music, look at this. Here's a huge playlist posted right on the New York Times website. You can click on that and play away. There's some other cool stuff down here. You got to deal with their ads. Sorry about that. And then I've started doing groups of films sometimes. Varese, watch this whole thing. It's only about 8 or 9 minutes long. Music Concrete overview, it's just a few minutes long. These are short. Watch them in their entirety. They'll really help. But Ligeti, how do you get to know Ligeti? I mean, the guy did a million different things. So to get a sense of all of his different styles, here's Barbara Hannigan, fantastic performer here. Watch a little of that, get a sense of it. Lux Eterna, this is one of his dense pieces. Atmosphere uses the same scoring techniques you'll see in Lux Eterna, but this is a live performance. This orchestra is fantastic. This is the Spanish Radio Orchestra. Amazing. Just watch enough of those that you can really get a sense of what's going on. These two, of course, if you're a film buff, prominently featured in the film 2001, A Space Odyssey. Michael Tippett, these 4 spirituals are fantastic. They don't do justice to this piece, but it's all I've got time for you to look. But it's pretty cool. And you can see that I'm moving ahead. Each of these sections, I skipped a few. I've put groups of page numbers so you can kind of keep your thoughts together on this. This John Zorn Cobra is just a few minutes long. Watch it. Frank's article is a little longer. Interview is a little longer, but it's great. Watch it. And then I put excerpts from Frank Zappa's book. Frank Zappa's book is actually masterful. These are some nice excerpts from it. in particular, I want to point out this one. There's some cool other stuff. There's video. There's all kind of links, you know, again, 4 levels deep. Great pictures of him and Boulez. But this right here, this is an address he did to the American Society of University Composers. I actually used this in my Music 101 book because I think it spoke so clearly to what Milton Babbitt and others were doing, the academics, versus what Frank was trying to do. His goal was totally different. So you can read this here. They unfortunately took out all of his doodles. The original book had these little pinned doodles that he drew into the manuscript, which was really cool. And they also censored Frank. And of course, if you know Frank Zappa, he's very opposed to censorship. So that's not cool. But it's a great article. You'll find it very useful in learning about Frank Zappa. Minimalist. We've got to spend a lot of time with the minimalist composers, so there's a good bit here. Terry Riley and C, this is an hour-long piece. Watch the first couple of minutes, then skip forward. It's cool. Lots of good introductory videos here. These are overviews. You'll find a lot of good information. Again, I've clearly marked watch all. Soon it's going to rain. Long piece. Watch enough to get a sense of it. This is a really good one to fast forward through so you can sort of see how the piece evolves. Some of these you'll see, you notice most of them I'm using YouTube. This is not a YouTube video. This is not a YouTube video, but click on the link. It'll open a new page. And of course, remember, you can open all of these in new pages. And a lot of times on the YouTube page, there'll be extra information you want to read. Where we're at right now, you may want some stuff for escape. So I've put pieces here that aren't required for the test, but these are magnificent pieces and they kind of deal with some stuff we're dealing with right now. So put those on there for you. Again, I've notated that clearly. This up above is required. I've made you a note here. This is not required, but you're welcome to explore it. Blah, blah, blah. Same thing here. You only need a couple minutes of this piece, but if you're like me, I can never turn it off when I listen to it. This piece is just wicked cool to watch. It's just mind-blowing to watch this score. And it's incredibly complex, and yet you can do this with young kids, which I find amazing. Murray Schafer, overlooked genius in my world. John Corigliano, barely mentioned in the book, but I think he's critical to our discussion. I've given you 3 examples here. They're all short. Tan Dunn, same way. He's mentioned for a second in a page, but he should be here in this section with these others. I've put several links for him. Watch these. They're all short. I put an hour-long PDQ Bach concert. If you're looking for some escape, I said it right here, man. This is a great COVID-19 escape. This is studying for class, but it's also hilariously funny in the guy's a genius. If you don't have time to watch it all, watch a little bit, skip forward and catch the little interview sections that he does. They're very telling. Same thing here. Ellen Zwelich's First Symphony. I've put the link to the first movement. You should listen to a couple of minutes of it, but if you got time, listen to the whole thing. Just put it on the background. It's a masterpiece. Arvo Pärt, same thing. This guy, some profound things to say. Etc., etc. I end up with Jennifer Higdon, which is how our book and scores end, so you've got a little more from her there as well. Some nice Santa Fe opera stuff. And finally, you're going to do some philosophical thinking as we move toward the end of the semester. So here's the first 2 articles we dealt with at the very beginning of the semester. I've written you a little note to think about here, and here's one last video. Take it in chunks. You can get this done. Plan for yourself. Watch as much or as little as you think you need to get a sense of these composers. You've got to get a sense of these people's style. And in this case, they're diverse styles because they're doing lots of different things and they're changing themselves, reinventing themselves every day. It's part of the point about what's going on right now. Who knows what the future will bring? I think this video comes closer than anything, in my mind, to showing you this is what's possible for us. And I also think that we can't keep doing things the way we've been doing in classical music. And this kind of speaks to that as well. I hope you're well. Take care. As I'm filming this, you're finishing Test 3. I hope you had a great time taking Test 3. And I will get that graded soon, of course. And we'll move on to this. Stay well.